Well, you've been on No Jumper before.
Many times.
And Adam's my man.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, you know, they're trying to cancel him over doing the interview with one of the guys who was responsible for Pop Smoke's murder.
Yeah. Would you have interviewed that guy, Vlad? Let's keep it a buck.
Well, let me say this.
All right.
Some years back, I interviewed this guy named No Plug, who was responsible for killing the rapper Bankroll Fresh. It's a slightly different situation because essentially in the interview, No Plug explained that it was self-defense.
Okay.
They got into an altercation in the studio. They drove off. He came back to get a cell phone. And Bankroll Fresh had pulled out like a AK-47 and started waving it around and actually shot first. They returned fire. Bankroll Fresh died. He turned himself into the police. They investigated. They went through the footage. They saw that it was self-defense. And people absolutely hated me over doing the interview because Bankroll Fresh was more popular at the time. But my thing was, this was self-defense. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I remember me and Charlemagne had a big falling out. We didn't talk for years over that situation. But some years later, TMZ released the footage, and what I said was right. You actually see Bankroll Fresh waving around a rifle. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this guy was basically justified, listen, you shoot at me, I'm going to try to kill you. Like, this is how life works in my book. And, me and Charlemagne ended up talking about it, and we ended up squashing it, and he apologized and everything else like that. So I've been in a similar space. People absolutely hated me for doing this interview at all. And granted, the way that he was presenting himself, he was lying next to a pile of money and so forth. Right. But listen, if someone tries to kill you and you manage to get them first, there's going to be a certain level of, wow, like I actually walked away from this. In terms of, the whole situation with the guy who killed Pop Smoke, I probably would have done that interview. I think it was actually offered to me at one point, and me and Adam talked about it, and I'm like, if you want to do it,
and you got
to go ahead.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
sometimes these interviews come through our platforms, and they try to do a bidding war or whatever over it, and I'm like, I'm cool. You could have it.
And I can understand, and Adam should understand why people would feel a certain way about it, especially in the Black community, because it seems exploitive to a certain degree. Because listen, people didn't, they showed a picture of OJ Simpson at the BET Awards.
Right.
White people lost their minds, all right? They didn't even interview OJ, they just showed this picture, rest in peace OJ. Oh my God, what is this?
Well,
Stephen A. Smith, he started acting a fool, his hairline fell back 4 more inches. He started clowning to show out in front of white people.
Well, so let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
I remember, because my man Faison Love,
shout out to Faison.
He's the one that started clowning Stephen A. Smith. And the two of them kind of went back and forth. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is a trigger topic. Let me jump into this arena a little bit. I did a poll, and I didn't say what I preferred. I said, if OJ was accused of killing a Black woman and a Black man, would he still be honored at the BET Awards? And the voting was kind of 50-50. Personally, I don't care if they honored him.
Yeah.
I can see the argument for both. He was a great athlete.
Yeah.
He was a Heisman winner. He was a movie star, whatever else. And he was found not guilty.
Yeah, he was innocent.
He was found not guilty.
He was innocent.
On the other side, although he was found not guilty, most of America felt that he got away with it. And he really did it. So I understand both sides. I personally didn't give a shit. They want to honor. I felt that BT was trolling by doing it. They knew what was going to happen.
Right.
So
I loved it.
But do you think that OJ would be honored at the BT Awards if his alleged victims were Black?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not, because he probably would have went to jail. He probably would have went to jail if he was accused.
But let's just say that he got away with it.
Yeah, because he wouldn't have. Yeah, if he killed some Black people, which he probably wouldn't have done. It's such a.
If he killed a Black woman,
right,
as well as a Black man, and most people thought
because
that
he would not have been framed. He was framed in that other case. That was a framing. If he was accused of killing a Black person, nobody would have framed him. This is what I'm saying. Okay. There might have been something to it. That shit in '94, he was framed, and it just didn't work. People.
So you think he's completely innocent?
Yeah. OJ didn't do that.
Okay,
shit.
so who did it?
That was a drug hit.
Okay.
That was a drug hit. Drug hits were big back in those days.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
we'll never know.
Yeah.
We will never know. He died without ever giving more information
when you
about
have
it.
the lead detective who's a neo-Nazi, Mark Furman.
That.
I mean,
yeah, Mark Furman definitely
that was a neo-Nazi for
big
real.
reason
He wasn't
why
just a racist. This guy was a
he
Nazi
was a racist.
Nazi.
He was a total Nazi racist.
Yeah,
I get it.
That shit was planted. The way they said OJ did it, OJ Simpson didn't wake up at 9 o'clock at night and say, hey, I got a flight in about an hour. Let me go ahead and kill my ex-wife real quick. Let me put on some Bruno Magli shoes and a sweatsuit and some gloves that don't fit and a skull cap and we'll drive over here. Oops, I got to kill another person. No, I don't believe none of that shit.
We will never know.
Right.
But this will be an unanswered topic for the rest of time.
Right. But OJ was innocent.
Okay.
But go ahead.
All right. He was found innocent.
Yes,
I was supposed to interview OJ.
Wow. What happened?
What had happened was this. I reached out to him. I DM'd him on Twitter. He said, talk to this guy.
Okay.
Because remember, OJ owed like $30 million.
And didn't give them a dime.
Didn't give him nothing.
I loved it.
He also owed his kids money as well. Let's not forget that part.
Okay.
Because the parents sued on behalf of the children.
Okay.
That's what happened.
Okay.
The guy explained it to me, actually.
Okay.
So he was running his money through other people.
Right.
And they were just kicking him cash so he wouldn't have to pay back his, the lawsuits. So me and the guy spoke, and we ultimately agreed to do the interview for $100,000.
Damn. Okay.
It's the most I've ever spent on an interview by far. And the agreement was I would do the interview and I would do it with the assumption that he was found not guilty. So we could touch on the trial, but he's like, don't go into the blood evidence and all the type of stuff or whatever else. But you could talk about, the whole Vegas situation. You could talk about his football career and whatever. You could talk about his jail time, but don't go too deep into trying to prove that he's guilty. And I'm like, okay, cool. I could agree to that. And the problem happened here. He was like, we want the money in cash. So I checked with my CFO. Okay, cool. Fill out a W-9 form, provide an invoice. We'll provide the money in cash. Cool. It'll be a standard business transaction.
Yeah.
Cool. Agreed upon. We're moving forward. Then he said, we want the entire amount before he walks into the room. And I said, I'm not doing that shit. Because I was like, I'm going to need at least a 3 to 4 hour interview to make this money, to be able to earn the money back.
Right.
And what if he just walks out? And he said, well, if you don't ask the wrong questions, he won't walk out. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He already owes someone $30 million. What's another $100,000? What am I going to do if he walks out? My security's not going to shoot him. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to catch a murder case. Like, I have nothing stopping him from walking out after 20 minutes because I've somehow asked the wrong question.
Right.
I'll give you half up front, half at the end of the interview. No. I'll give you 75 up front, 25 at the end. No. We only want it up front or no deal.
Wow.
So I said, business-wise, I can't do it.
Right.
Now, would he probably have sat in and done the whole thing? Probably.
Yeah.
Would this have been his only sit-down life story interview? Yes. But I couldn't take the financial risk of $100,000 for a company my size.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not NBC that could just write off a $100,000 loss.
And I can understand them with the questioning because, he did that deal, that If I Did It book.
Right.
And it was supposed to be understood that this is a nonfiction.
I read the book. It was
It's nonfiction. But then years later, they tried to say, well, that's the confession. Oh, my God, he confessed. And,
I don't know about that.
Well,
the Goldman family ended up owning that book.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they put it out themselves. And it's like,
oh, I did it. Right.
Well, the if is in tiny letters.
Right.
And the I did it is in big letters. So, yeah, I mean, I could have potentially did it, but did the OJ interview, but ultimately, I found over time that when you deal with scammers, they're so scared of being scammed themselves, they'll create ridiculous situations.
Now, is OJ a scammer?
He owed $30 million.
Well, yeah, for something he didn't do, yeah, I wouldn't give him no money either.
Well, but I mean, he lost in civil court, and he basically
that was revenge. He shouldn't have given him a dime. He shouldn't have given him shit. That's not a scam. He shouldn't have given him shit.
Listen, however you want to call it, he owed tens of millions of dollars and managed to not pay it.
Good for OJ.
Okay? Whether you agree or disagree,
scam.
all I know
the scam is trying to frame you for murder that you didn't do. He owed a
bunch of money, and he didn't pay those people way more money than I was going to pay. Well, so I knew that $100,000 was going to be no problem for him to walk out of.
But the ancestors were looking out for OJ and his... Shout out to the ancestors to make sure he didn't have to pay shit. Yeah. Good for OJ.
Yeah, man.